Buffet restaurants can feel like a dream come true. Rows of hot food trays, endless options, all you can eat for one flat price. For many people, buffets represent abundance, value, and freedom. The freedom to pile your plate high with whatever you want, however much you want. But behind the glistening sneeze guards and stacked plates is a darker truth. Buffet restaurants might be far more dangerous than they seem, not just for your waistline, but for your overall health. At first glance, the hazards of a buffet might seem obvious: overeating, questionable freshness, and food that's been sitting out for hours. But what most people don't realize is how deep those problems go. Buffets are a perfect storm of bacteria growth, cross-contamination, low food quality, and risky food handling practices, made worse by the fact that the people serving themselves are not trained in food safety. Let's start with the most visible concern: temperature. Food that sits in the danger zone, between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, is ripe for bacterial growth. Buffets rely on hot trays and ice beds to keep food at proper temperatures, but how often are those temperatures actually maintained? Buffet lines are notorious for fluctuating conditions. A tray of chicken that's meant to be piping hot might drop below 135 degrees Fahrenheit after just an hour under a heat lamp, especially if the lamp is old or the tray isn't refilled properly. Similarly, cold items like pasta salad or shrimp cocktail may not be kept cold enough if the ice beneath them melts or isn't replenished. The result? Bacteria like Salmonella, Listeria, and E. coli can flourish. Worse, food at buffets is often recycled. That means if a tray isn't empty by the end of a shift, it's not always tossed. Instead, it might be stirred, mixed with fresher batches, or refreshed with sauces to disguise the age. Leftovers from lunch might reappear at dinner. Items from yesterday might be passed off as today's special. This reuse isn't just gross, it increases the chances of bacterial buildup and spoiled ingredients being served to unsuspecting customers. Cross-contamination is another serious issue. Think of how many people walk through a buffet in a single night. Hundreds of hands reach for the same tongs, ladles, or spoons. One customer may accidentally let the serving utensil fall into the wrong tray. Another may use the mashed potato spoon to scoop up mac and cheese. Even worse, children often serve themselves with little regard for hygiene. And despite the presence of sneeze guards, people still talk over food, cough near it, or touch it directly. All of these behaviors increase the likelihood of germs spreading between dishes. Then there's the issue of hand hygiene. At a sit-down restaurant, the only people touching your food are trained cooks and servers. At a buffet, the person ahead of you in line, who just came from the bathroom or just wiped their nose, could be spreading bacteria to everything they touch. Most buffets don't require customers to sanitize their hands before entering the line. And even if hand sanitizer is available, not everyone uses it. In an environment where everyone helps themselves, sanitation quickly becomes a free-for-all. Speaking of free-for-alls, buffets often sacrifice food quality for volume. To keep costs down, many buffet chains rely on cheaper cuts of meat, frozen vegetables, and pre-packaged sauces. What you're getting is rarely made fresh on-site. Instead, it's often trucked in, reheated, and dumped into metal trays. The chicken may be injected with saline to keep it moist. The shrimp may have been thawed multiple times. The vegetables might come from a can. The goal isn't to provide gourmet cuisine, it's to feed as many people as possible for as little as possible. That brings us to a different kind of health hazard: ultra-processed food. Buffets often lean heavily on fried, sauced, or carb-heavy items. Think breaded chicken, cheese-drenched pasta, greasy pizza, and creamy potato salad. These dishes are cheap, filling, and addictive, but not nutritious. Eating at buffets frequently means consuming large quantities of sodium, sugar, saturated fat, and artificial additives. A single trip can easily push you past your recommended daily intake of calories, salt, and fat. And because you're encouraged to go back for seconds, thirds, or more, it's easy to overdo it. In fact, the psychological element of buffets makes them even more dangerous. Studies have shown that people eat significantly more at all-you-can-eat settings, regardless of hunger. The flat-fee model encourages people to get their money's worth, which often leads to overconsumption. The result is a perfect recipe for bloating, indigestion, and long-term weight gain. People leave buffets uncomfortably full not because they were hungry, but because the environment pushed them to keep eating. Now, let's look behind the scenes. The kitchen operations at many buffet-style restaurants are under immense pressure to churn out large quantities of food quickly and cheaply. That often means shortcuts. Workers might skip temperature checks, reuse cutting boards, or handle raw and cooked items without changing gloves. Turnover is high, training is rushed, and the focus is on speed, not precision. That opens the door for dangerous mistakes. Undercooked meats, dirty prep stations, spoiled ingredients being served because no one checked the expiration date. Buffets also attract high foot traffic from a wide range of people. Unlike fine dining establishments with controlled environments, buffets cater to everyone: families, seniors, teens, and large groups. That's more hands-on food, more bodies moving through the space, and more opportunities for contamination. And if someone shows up sick, it's easy for germs to spread through the shared utensils, seating, and even the self-serve ice cream machine handle. The beverage stations at buffets aren't immune either. Self-serve soda fountains are often overlooked during cleaning. If not sanitized properly, the nozzles can harbor mold, bacteria, and even insect residue. The same goes for ice dispensers. And don't forget those all-you-can-drink coffee pots and creamer containers, which can sit out all day without being properly cleaned or replaced. Even the plates and silverware can be questionable. Buffets often run dishwashers non-stop, but when the kitchen is overwhelmed, corners get cut. Dishes might be stacked while still damp, creating breeding grounds for bacteria. Utensils might be rinsed instead of washed. If you've ever picked up a plate with leftover smudges or water spots at a buffet, you know exactly what this looks like. It's not just unpleasant, it's potentially unsafe. And then there's the dessert bar. Looks harmless. But behind the whipped topping and chocolate fountains lies another bacteria risk. Those little tongs used for brownies and cookies? Touched by dozens of people. The fruit trays? Likely pre-cut hours ago and exposed to warm air and handling. And don't get started on the soft serve machine. Unless it's cleaned daily, a time-consuming process involving full disassembly, there's a high chance bacteria and mold are living in its pipes. So what's the solution? Should you swear off buffets forever? Not necessarily. But if you're going to eat at one, there are ways to reduce your risk. First, go early. The earlier you arrive, the fresher the food. Early lunch or early dinner is your best bet. At those times, the dishes are newly prepared and haven't been sitting out for long. Second, scope out the crowd. If the buffet is packed and the staff looks overwhelmed, hygiene is probably suffering. Go somewhere that looks clean, where the trays are being refilled frequently, and where the staff is attentive. Third, avoid risky items. Skip seafood, raw salads, sushi, and anything creamy that's been sitting in a bowl all day. Go for cooked, piping hot items that are steaming when served. Trust your nose. If something smells off, it probably is. Fourth, use hand sanitizer and clean your utensils. Carry your own if needed. Treat the buffet line like a public bathroom. Assume the surfaces have been touched by everyone and protect yourself accordingly. Fifth, don't overeat just because you can. Buffets tempt you to eat more than your body needs, but there's no prize for leaving painfully full. Take smaller portions, sample different items, but don't pile your plate sky high. It's better to go back for a second round than to waste food or harm your body. Finally, if you're immunocompromised, elderly, pregnant, or feeding young children, consider avoiding buffets altogether. The risk of foodborne illness is higher for vulnerable populations. Stick to made-to-order meals, where food is freshly prepared and handled by professionals. Buffets might seem like a harmless indulgence, but they hide a world of risks most people never consider. From poor hygiene to temperature abuse to overeating, they challenge your health in ways that aren't always obvious. The abundance masks the danger, the variety distracts from the risk. And the value? Sometimes it comes at a cost you can't see until it's too late. So the next time you're tempted by a buffet, pause. Look closely. Ask yourself, do you trust the food, the environment, the people around you? If the answer isn't a solid yes, you might want to step away from the sneeze guard and find a safer, smarter meal. Because when it comes to your health, it's not just about how much you eat, it's about what and how it got to your plate.